From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Wrong-way driving accidents continue to be a public safety threat. How Governor Ducey plans to reduce fatalities and create public awareness.
STEM education is on the rise, but not for everyone. How schools are working to integrate STEM programs in their classrooms.
Teachers are in charge of educating the future of our nation, but not all of them are sticking around. Why teachers in the Valley are looking for other options.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Felisa Gardenas.
And I'm Madison Connor. Thank you for joining us. Governor Doug Ducey is responding to the recent fatal three-way wrong-way crash on a Phoenix freeway. 2 drivers were killed while the third was injured, causing part of State Route 51 to close last night. Arizona Department of Transportation says this is one of several wrong-way accidents in 2017. Ducey says immediate state action is needed, including more enforcement on the roads and better public awareness. Department of Transportation officials say they have plans to start a wrong-way detection system using thermal camera technology.
2 days after Governor Doug Ducey declared a health emergency to deal with the state's spiraling opioid crisis, a top aide was in Washington today to talk about the state's strategy. Cronkite News reporter Alex Valdez is live in our Washington bureau with the story.
No, I want to look at
She does smile. It's pretty intense.
Deputy Chief of Staff Danny Seiden brought a sombering message today to a panel of experts at the American Enterprise Institute and some suggestions on how states can deal with the opioid problem that killed 790 people in Arizona last year. Seiden said one way to deal with the issue of opioid abuse and addiction is through education and prevention, stopping the problem before it starts.
Including dedicating more and more time and policy research towards prevention, not just treatment, because you got to fight this on all fronts. And a lot of our ideas have been around treatment, which we're not going to give up on, but we have to get to prevention as well.
But he said the state is moving aggressively to deal with the problem that it is currently facing.
Steps that Governor Ducey has taken to help protect Arizonans, signing into law bills that allow naloxone to be more readily available so that we can reverse overdoses. And of course, most recently declaring a state of emergency.
Other speakers on the panel said one way the federal government can help is by shifting more power to the states. Includes giving states more flexibility to use Medicaid funding for substance abuse, treatment, and prevention. And for Arizona, it could include using Medicaid funds for prevention and education at the junior high school level.
I think what we need is education, and so the key to prevention is education. So resources and more flexibility in how we can use some dollars to address this problem in a way that benefits Arizonans.
Seiden said that is just one part of the state's approach.
The treatments that we're doing, whether it's our Vivitrol private pilot program, whether it's alone, including the Angel drop-off, all those things are going to continue on forward. This is something we're fighting on all fronts.
Mm-hmm. Seiden also said that the need for limitation on access to prescription opioids, noting that millions of prescriptions written in Arizona last year led to more than 2 overdose deaths per day. In Washington, Alex Valdez, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is dedicated to the covering of the opioid crisis in Arizona and nationwide. Our documentary Hooked RX, From Prescription to Addiction, highlights the problem of painkillers here in our state. You can watch the documentary and find resources for getting help online at hookedrx.com.
A little dirty secret, that's what the Terry family called an alleged government cover-up of the death of Border Patrol agent Brian Terry at a House committee hearing today. Our Cronkite News DC reporter tells us more.
It's been 6 years since her son was murdered in Arizona while working as a Border Patrol agent. But for Josephine Terry, the pain hasn't gone away.
I refuse to also let her flag cover up the fact how I Brian died or allow it to hide from those who are responsible.
Terry testified today at a hearing with the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, which has spent years investigating an operation called Fast and Furious. This operation led to the death of Brian Terry.
The shocking endgame of this misguided plan was to identify cartel members after guns recovered at crime scenes traced back to their original place of purchase.
But hundreds of those guns were never found, and 2 of them were found at the scene of Terry's murder. Alongside Terry was her nephew and Brian Terry's cousin, Robert Heyer.
Brian made the ultimate sacrifice. It's been 6 years since his murder. We will continue to fight for answers, for transparency.
Mrs. Terry near tears during the hearing as she spoke of her late son.
Put your party policies aside. Fulfill your obligations to the American people.
Committee members shared their frustration throughout the hearing, with Representative Trey Gowdy of South Carolina even calling the investigation the dumbest idea.
It has vexed me how anyone could have ever thought this investigative scheme was going to work.
In the meantime, the Terry family hopes that President Trump will give them answers to Brian's death like he promised during his campaign. In Washington, Noelle Lilly, Cronkite News.
The committee members said they plan to draft a letter urging Congress to resolve this investigation.
Major League Baseball Commissioner Rob Manfred made a visit to Chase Field on Tuesday in the wake of the dispute between the Diamondbacks and Maricopa County over paying for renovations for the stadium. Chase Field has been the home of the Diamondbacks since 1998, but the team sued Maricopa County in January, seeking to get out of its stadium lease to possibly leave. Commissioner Rob Manfred took to the podium during his visit to Arizona and gave his take on the issue.
We concur wholeheartedly with the Diamondbacks' position that there are substantial needs here with respect to this stadium to keep it as a Major League quality stadium. You know, it is unusual, it would be unusual for a tenant to be responsible for those sorts of capital repairs, and we think that, you know, the Diamondbacks have taken a correct position.
Manfred also highlighted that the MLB may look for an alternative facility in the future if Chase Field does not get the proper funding.
Rural communities across the state are falling below the curve in STEM programs, according to the Arizona State Board of Education. The U.S. Department of Education says only 16% of high school students are interested in STEM-related careers, and only half of that number will pursue that career after graduation. I visited one school to see how they are beating those odds. Science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Those areas are falling behind in rural areas, according to the state's Department of Education. One professor who shows teachers how to teach STEM classes says she wants to increase interest in the subject.
Kids were becoming very bored with science. And not only were they becoming bored, but they were becoming disinterested in science, especially girls.
STEM education is meant to battle this disinterest as it integrates those subjects into a hands-on learning environment. Walters believes students should have access to STEM programs no matter where they live.
If we want all students to have equal opportunity and a fair playing field, then STEM needs to be everywhere, and students need to have the opportunities to engage in STEM.
One rural community has been developing those opportunities. Holbrook Unified School District has excelled at integrating STEM into their methods, and it shows in their AZ Merit test scores. Holbrook has a math score of 21, while other rural areas show scores as low as 7. Holbrook Junior High STEM teacher Beth Ballou says the students have latched on to STEM due to the creative freedom.
This is probably one of their favorite classes because when they come in here, it's all about designing and creating, and they get to put their own personal touches on what they're doing.
And they're using technology such as 3D printers for their experiments.
Because you can use your hands instead of just using your brain. You can use your hands to put stuff together.
The school district is looking into getting a stronger broadband connection in order to Skype certified teachers in to integrate STEM in more classrooms. Overall, teachers here in Arizona are among the lowest paid in the United States. Reporter Blakely McHugh tells us how this affects teachers in the profession.
According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, Occupational Employment Statistics, and Bureau of Economic Analysis regional price parties, Arizona's median elementary teacher pay is around $41,000. That's the lowest in the country after a cost of living adjustment.
And even with that low pay, teachers spend on average $500, if not more, to provide for their classroom. According to Expect More Arizona, this low income is not only affecting what teachers can provide, but their morale for the job itself.
The morale is low, but if it wasn't for the students, you know, we don't know what would what it would look like.
Teachers spend on average 64.2 hours per week on things related to classroom prep, classroom instruction, and grading, according to the teacher workforce. Teacher of the Year, Michelle Doherty, says because of their frustration, a lot of teachers are either leaving the profession or moving to higher paying state.
What we're concerned is that the teachers that are choosing to stay in the career aren't going past 5 years, because either there's pay freezes or the raises are very low or whatever. You know, you can't live off of teachers' wages.
The Morrison Institute at Arizona State University conducted a survey in April that says 22% of teachers hired in 2013 to 2015 were not working in Arizona after 1 year. 42% of teachers hired in 2013 were not working after 3 years. The low income pay is not only affecting the morale and retention rate of teachers, it's also affecting the amount of people going into the profession. The survey also shows Arizona is losing more teachers than bachelor education degrees are being produced. Hart says this is because the community has a negative outlook on the profession.
When a young person says, well, I want to go into teaching, the community response should be, yes, we support you, that's a great choice. But right now, the question is why? It doesn't pay anything, why would you do that?
Doherty and Hart said they are both working to boost teachers' morale and increase teacher pay. Expect more. Arizona will be announcing a teacher pay goal when it gets closer to back to school time. In the Broadcast Center, Blakely McHugh, Cronkite News.
President Trump's plan to build a border wall might face some challenges in Arizona.
Coming up on Cronkite News.
Pima County officials come together against Trump's proposal, why building a wall is not in their plans.
Residents will soon see new transportation projects coming their way. How city officials plan to develop local infrastructure.
I'm Scott Pelley, anchor and managing editor of the CBS Evening News. In our changing media landscape, it is crucial for journalism education to ensure a commitment to the truth, unbiased reporting, strong ethics, unwavering fairness, and above all else, accuracy. These are the hallmarks of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. It's a place where students can innovate and transform the news industry while always upholding the values of the school's namesake. The Cronkite School at ASU, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule, where it's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Access interactive digital and printable program guides, repeat times, and full episode descriptions. Watch program previews of best bets for the coming week. Search by title to find your favorite shows. You can even add programs to your calendar and get email reminders when they're about to start. It's easier than ever to find out what's on Arizona PBS. Discover so much more at azpbs.org/schedule. When you want to be more connected, friend us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, watch us online.
Former FBI Director James Comey is a day away from appearing before the Senate. Earlier today, the Senate Intelligence Committee released Comey's written testimony for tomorrow. According to Comey's statement, Trump asked him to drop the investigation into Michael Flynn. Arizona Senator John McCain plans on questioning Comey during tomorrow's hearing. The Arizona senator will be attending as a chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, but will not be able to vote.
Governor Doug Ducey is making his way to the White House. President Trump is inviting Ducey and other mayors and governors to discuss infrastructure policies. The Republican governor is attending a week-long summit to bring the long list of Arizona projects up for funding. These range from $500 to $600 million for shovel-ready projects and a major spending of $250 million for the I-10 improvements.
The Tucson City Council unanimously voted to oppose construction on Trump's proposed border wall. Council members are calling the president's wall offensive and damaging.
The border wall, I think, has a feeling of apartheid about it, and it's not bringing any of us together. It is actually destroying economies or having negative effects on the economies.
The Pima County Board of Supervisors also passed a resolution opposing the border wall. The board was joined by 2 local tribes, including the Tohono O'odham tribe, whose reservation is located on the U.S.-Mexico border in Arizona. The Pima County Board of Supervisors extended its financial support to a Tucson hospital. The board voted on Tuesday to continue the county's partnership with the Banner University Medical Center South Campus to June of 2019. Despite the partnership, Pima County will continue to supervise the hospital's operation to ensure it's providing quality health care.
Former Arizona Corporation Commissioner Gary Pierce is being arraigned on bribery and fraud charges with the water company. There are accusations that Pierce is accepting payments from the water company in exchange for special treatment in a utility rate case. The water company owner, George Johnson, Pierce's wife, Sherry, and lobbyist Jim Norton are also scheduled for arraignments.
$5.7 billion will go into future transportation projects across the valley. The announcement came today at a joint news conference. Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton and Tempe Mayor Mark Mitchell explained how investment in transportation makes a difference in the valley's economy, particularly when it comes to generating new jobs. Among the first project, the South Phoenix Light Rail expansion and the streetcar project in Tempe.
When we invest in infrastructure, it's the best investment we can make. It pays long-term dividends for our economy, and in the short run, puts tens of thousands of people to work. For every $1 billion spent, what the economist from Washington, D.C. indicated was that creates almost 30,000 jobs for every billion.
Water supply can be a concern when battling the summer heat.
But for some Arizonans, it means much more. Coming up on Cronkite News. How Arizona is negotiating with neighboring states on water conservation.
And it's 106 degrees out there. Are you getting hot yet? Stay tuned for your 7-day forecast.
Combat is like crack cocaine. It's an enormous high, but it has enormous costs. And I think that we make a big mistake if we say, oh, well, war is hell. We all know the war is hell story. It is, but there's an enormously exhilarating part of it.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in. Arizona State wins. Keeping one deep, and it is caught. Jalen Strong. Do you believe it? All right.
Fascinating. You know, sometimes I wish I wasn't so beloved.
Can't you see? Little girl got a hold on me like wow. Baby, I'm howling for you.
It's literally one for the history books.
Enjoy.
% of our state's water reserve is stored in Lake Mead, but the Colorado River, which feeds it, has been in drought for over a decade. The fiscal year 2018 executive budget summary discusses a plan that will help conserve water. Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein traveled to Lake Mead to see what impact the proposal could have.
A new report by the Western Water Advocates shows Lake Mead is being drained faster than it can be refilled. If it drops below certain levels, water access will be reduced. Farmers would be the first to feel the effects of the shortage, and those who depend on agriculture are already trying to prevent that.
The Colorado River runs alongside Parker, Arizona. Many depend on the river for tourism and business, and the Colorado River Indian tribes rely on it for their primary economic activity, agriculture.
It started off with our canals being built years ago into watering our farms.
But there's less water in the river due to an extended drought, lasting for close to 17 years.
If you went up to Lake Mead, you could see that line that shows where it used to be and where it's now.
Today, the water level stands at 1081 feet. If water elevation drops below 1075, 1050, or 1025 feet, the water delivery to Arizona and Nevada is reduced at each step. That means for those involved in water conservation efforts, it's all hands on deck. Bureau of Reclamation spokesperson Rose Davis says there's a chance of shortage in the next couple years.
Our current predictions based on our August 24-month study, which kind of sets out the water deliveries for the following year, says that in 2019 we've got about a 33% chance of shortage in the lower basin.
The Colorado River Indian tribes have the oldest water rights on the river, and they would be one of the last to lose access. But the tribe proactively joined a pilot program to reduce their water use.
We fallow some of our lands. Instead of farming on those lands, that water that would have gone there would go back into Lake Mead.
The river is a big part of the Colorado River Indian tribe's culture, and Moses said they've been educating tribal members about what's happening.
It's a little disturbing to people when you find out, when they say, oh, you're not going to farm there, because we've been farming for so long, you know, and then we say, oh, we're not going to farm there. Why not?
According to the 2018 Executive Budget Summary, Arizona has been in negotiations with California, Nevada, and the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation to prepare a plan that will conserve water in Lake Mead. But there is a cost, and Arizona's share would be $2 million per year for 3 years. In the Broadcast Center, Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
Drinking water is also important when temperatures in the valley are reaching the triple digits.
Blakely McHugh tells us what temperatures to expect this week.
Thanks, Madison. Like I said earlier, we're sitting at 106 right now, and there's a little bit of cloud coverage going in there, so it's not too hot outside. Right now, looking at our average temperature is usually 102. The record is a 115 in 1985. I'm sure glad that we're not there right now. I'm thankful for that. 106, looking at the valley forecast, we're at 102 in Whitman, 106 in Levine, and 106 in Casa Grande, all sitting around those mid to high hundreds. And looking at the temperatures across Arizona State, 86 in Grand Canyon, 103 in Phoenix, and 105 in Tucson, And let's look at our 7-day forecast right now. The first 3 days we're in the triple digits right now for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Today is the last day of that heat warning, excessive heat warning. It ends at 8, and looking at the rest of the week, we're going to be in our triple digits, hitting 96 in Monday. That'll be a nice day. For Cronkite Weather, I'm Blakely McHugh.
A Glendale MMA fighter could reach millions of household viewers across the country.
Coming up on Cronkite News, how she prepares for that spot that could boost her career.
Heaven knows you're a dreamer. Don't hide it from anyone. Don't hide it from anyone. Hey, would you believe me if I said we are here for a reason now? This is our life. This is what counts. This is for us. I will go
Fox 1 sports reality show The Ultimate Fighter is featuring only female fighters for the first time. Reporter Annika Walters is in Glendale with a possible contestant.
Before she began competing in MMA, veteran fighter Lauren Murphy battled addiction and drug abuse.
I got kicked out of school and I went to jail. For me, alcohol and drugs was taking a lot of things from me, and one of the only places that I felt like I wasn't a failure was, I think, on the mats.
Murphy quit drinking and stopped using drugs. She dove into MMA and jiu-jitsu at a gym in Anchorage, Alaska, where she met MMA fighter and coach Joe Murphy, who would become her husband.
yeah, I just met her at the gym through jiu-jitsu and MMA, so we were beating each other up before anything.
He quickly knew she had a future in the sport.
Right at the same time that I was leaving active duty, knew that Lauren was going to get signed to the UFC, and we had like the choice of great gyms all around the world to go to, you know, so we narrowed it down to a few. The lab was on the list. We came here and never left.
The two have been at Glendale's MMA lab for 3 years. In May, she auditioned for the reality TV show The Ultimate Fighter. Murphy's introduction to MMA came through her son when she encouraged him to try. He didn't like it, but she was hooked.
I was 26 and I thought, man, it's too late for me, but he could be a martial artist. So I literally opened up the phone book and stuck my finger in, and the first place I came across happened to be a jiu-jitsu school, but I didn't even know what jiu-jitsu was.
Never even tasted competition before she fought her first fight. And in such a short time, she's potentially fighting for the UFC title.
In Glendale, Annika Walters, Cronkite News.
Filming for the show will begin in July. Coaches for the fighters have not yet been named.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Wednesday on Arizona Horizon, we'll discuss the opioid epidemic in Arizona after the governor declares an emergency and hear how cities fared in the past legislative session. That's Wednesday at 5:30 on Arizona Horizon.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, we talk with Vice President Mike Pence. That's Wednesday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.